do think about the secondary characters. So with the primary character, I literally lay out a timeline of like the project I was working on this past weekend. What year was she born? When was she in kindergarten? When did she graduate high school? Okay, how old are her parents? When were they born? There's a grandmother character in the novel. How old's the grandmother? When was she born? Because it starts to inform you about big events, especially since we just came through the pandemic. If you're writing something that's going to be published, if you're writing a contemporary piece and that you think is going to be published 2 years from now, well, the pandemic is part of everybody's backstory. So you kind of have to recognize how old were they, what was going on, were they in school, were they an adult, were they a kid, how might that have affected them? And you may decide it's not going to bear mentioning at all, or it could become something that helps define the character. So I do go into great detail for the main character, almost that much detail with bios and motivations and what's their role in the story and what do they need to learn by the end of the story. They don't even realize they need to learn at the beginning of the story for a couple of the secondary characters. And then the other characters I sketch with less detail, partly because I could spend the rest of my life building bios for all my characters, and it's so much fun and it's so
Yeah.
much easier than actually writing the story, to be honest, at least for me. But what's interesting is that as I'm creating these bios for particularly for secondary characters, a scene will pop in mind of, oh, my main character and this secondary character need to discuss this, and then I just make a note of it. And often there's scenes that if I just sat down and said, I need a plot, let me sketch out a plot, that I would not have come up with. So what's fun to me about that is that then the scenes and thus the plot become very character driven, not just by the main character, but it's shaped by the personalities of all the people that the main character is interacting with.